Hello everybody and welcome today. My name's Yasin. I'm a careers officer in the careers team. The presentation today is all about creating a great CV and cover letter. So the aims of today's session really are to get you prepared, get you a CV and a cover letter to help you to get noticed by recruiters and employers, with the aim being that hopefully that will land you lots of job interviews. So in this presentation today, you'll learn about what research you need to do before you actually start writing your CV. So there's, so many people before they start actually writing their CV, they don't actually research and look at what the employer is actually asking for. So today we're going to look at some of the things that you can be doing before you actually start writing your CV, which are so important. We're also going to look at how you can structure and format your CV for a professional outlook. So I'll be sharing with you a template today which you'll be able to have a little look at, which will just set the CV off in a professional way, so that hopefully when that kind of lands on an employer's desk, or when an employer or a recruiting manager has a look at that CV, it's going to make a positive impression. So there are lots of different versions of CVs, but for today's purposes we're just going to concentrate on a chronological CV. So we'll come to that in a second, but before you start writing your chronological CV, it's really important that you actually make the right impression with the employer. So the whole point of your CV is to make that introduction, to present yourself, to impress the employer so that they can actually read about you, what you've done, what you have to offer, and then hopefully that will then invite you to interview. Now, it's really important to know what the employers are looking for in terms of the skills and knowledge from that CV before you actually start writing it, right? So it makes sense to know what they want before you actually put that down on paper. So many times people kind of create a CV, but they don't tailor it, or they don't have the employer in mind. So you need to look at what the employer is asking for, what skills are they interested in, what do they want from a potential candidate. That will then help you to write your CV. So before you start writing your CV as well, you need to really hit the jobs board. So have a look online and look at the types of jobs that you're interested in, okay? Make some key notes. So what are the types of things from these roles that different employers are asking for? You can then include these in your CV, whether they be skills or whether they be information that you can include in terms of your personal profile, so the abilities that you have. Really get a good sense and an idea of what the employer is asking for. Then make a list of all those in-demand skills and the knowledge that you need for that role, and then you can then replicate that in your CV. Okay, so what should your CV look like? As we've discussed today, this, as you can see here, is an example of a chronological CV, okay, with a skills section within it. There are academic CVs, there are just skills-based CVs as well, which you can do, but for today's purposes, we're just looking at a chronological CV. So when you're creating your CV, the best format to follow is either in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, because they are the accepted formats globally for CVs. They're also the accepted formats for ATS systems, applicant tracking systems. They are software that employers use. It's kind of like a sifting process. So before your CV lands on an actual human's desk, an applicant tracking system will look at your CV to see if it's worthwhile passing it on to somebody to have a look at in more detail. So if your CV is in Google Docs or if it's in Microsoft Word, it's the correct format. ATS systems can pick that up. Okay. Make sure you keep the format simple. So make it, clean, crisp, make it so that it's easily readable. You don't want to go too crazy and too wacky with color schemes. Basic black on white background is perfectly acceptable. Unless, of course, you're creating a CV maybe for, whether it's a marketing CV or whether it's actually a CV where you're going to be applying for a role where you want to show your design skills, then you can think a little bit more outside the box and you might kind of get a bit more imaginative and a bit more creative. But for these purposes, for 99% of jobs, you'll want to use this type of a template. Okay, so make sure it's easily readable. Use bold headings to divide the section. So as you can see here, when you look at this CV, it's very easy on the eye. You can quite clearly see that the sections are identifiable. You've got kind of good use of bold, capital letters and lines to break up the text as well. It's easy for an employer to pick out the key bits of information from it as well. Okay, so what you're going to start off with initially is your personal summary. Now, your personal summary, or a professional profile as it's sometimes known, either is fine, is a brief introductory paragraph which summarizes your abilities, your skills, your aims, and really what it's designed to do is grab the attention of the reader. So when we talked about actually tailoring your CV and having a look on the jobs boards to see what type of person employers are looking for your role and industry, getting an idea of the type of person they're interested in, you can then kind of replicate that in your personal summary to show that you are that type of person who has those skills and abilities or personality that they're looking for. Okay, so it's an introductory paragraph. It summarizes your skills, experience and knowledge. As we've said, it's designed to catch the recruiter's eye. You want to keep it short. It doesn't want to be too long, anywhere between 5 and 8 lines really, ideally. And just think of it in terms of your introduction to the employer. Okay, so it's got to be impactful. It's got to be able to kind of make you stand out from everybody else. Try and avoid generic terms about being a good team player and, you know, those types of generic kind of terms which can apply to any role or any industry, and try and be a little bit more specific. Okay, the next section you're going to move on to is your education. So showcase your academic achievements from high school onwards. So reverse chronological format. Start off with your most recent or your current qualifications and work backwards from there. This is the format that I prefer. So the name of the institution, so you've got University of Central Lancashire there, your course title underneath that, obviously with your grade or a predicted grade. Include key modules, dissertation titles, because again you're trying to tailor your CV towards a particular role, so you want to show that you have experience maybe, or you've studied the subject to some degree. And then your dates are all kind of aligned there on the right hand side, and then just work your way backwards from there. Work experience, that's the next section you're going to come to. So the work experience section should include any internships, placements, volunteering, and any kind of previous roles that you may have held. Okay, so again, you want to work back reverse order. So start with your current and most recent employer first, if you have one. And then what you'll want to do is bullet point some of your key duties and achievements. Okay, so really what you're trying to do there is give the employer a flavour of what you've done, the kind of tasks you've completed, and the level of responsibility that you've held. So you don't want to go into loads and loads of detail. Just, summarize your key kind of responsibilities from your roles. The key skills section is a really good way, again, to help you tailor your CV towards a particular role. It's useful to use soft skills as well as hard skills. So what we talk about here are soft skills, interpersonal skills, as you can see here, for example, organisation and planning, critical thinking, communication and presentation, and you can see a few others underneath there as well. Technical skills are also useful to include as well. So if you're applying for a role where you might be, for example, using particular software or programs, if you have experience in those areas, it's important to include those technical skills in there as well. Your key skills you'll want to target towards the role. So again, think about what are the in-demand skills for the role that I'm applying for, and that's what you'll want to replicate in your key skills section. You'll get an idea of the key skills employers are asking for from looking at the person specification or just looking at the advert or adverts. and they'll describe the type of person that they're looking for as well. Okay, so if you've got a second language, include that in there as well. Remember to, as we've said, remember to check the person's specification and give examples of where you have displayed your skills as well. So yes, it's useful to have a list of skills that you can offer the employer, but to set your CV apart, to make it stand out from others, to take it to the next level, if you can demonstrate where you have displayed some of those skills, that kind of gives added value. It shows added value to an employer. So an employer can see, well, okay, this person is saying they've got organisation and planning skills. Okay, they may have just copied that down. How do I particularly know that they've got organisation and planning skills? Well, here's an example that I'm giving: multitasking and prioritising my workload, finishing course assignments on time, working part-time whilst at university, are all examples of how you have displayed your organisation and planning skills. So some top tips for you when you're completing your CV: keep it to a minimum of 2 pages. Depending on your level of experience, it could even just be a 1-page CV. That's fine as well. Avoid generic cliches. Make sure you proofread your CV. It's your communication tool. It's your first chance to make a positive impression on employers. So you don't want to be sending a CV through that has mistakes or spelling mistakes or grammar issues, or the layout's wrong, the structure's wrong. So make sure you proofread it. Use compelling action verbs to describe your duties. So action verbs really to give your CV power and impact. Keep it concise and to the point. Don't rabbit on. Keep it specific, bearing in mind all the time that employers don't have a lot of time when it comes to reading CVs, so you'll want to keep it concise and to the point. Bullet point your roles. It's much easier for employers to pick out key bits of information if it's bullet point. Always tell the truth. Remember, you've got to be able to stand behind your CV, and if you get to interview, you're going to have to back up what you've said in your CV as well. And obviously, if you're not telling the truth, then that's fraud, which is what you want to avoid anyway. Tailor your CV to each role and do your research as well. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick look at cover letters. Now, a cover letter is a document set alongside your CV, and it acts as a personal introduction and helps to sell your application. So you're able to give a little bit more detail, a bit more of a story, give the employer a bit more of an understanding of what you're about, where you come from, and what motivates you in your cover letter. So a cover letter is always a good thing to do when you're sending your CV. It should typically be 3 to 5 short paragraphs. Don't exceed an A4 page, and the whole idea of it, as we've said, is to show who you are, why you're interested in the role, and why you're a good fit for the organisation. So some information here of how to structure your cover letter. So the first paragraph, start off by maybe talking about why you're applying for the role, where you saw it advertised. The second paragraph may be describing why you're suitable for the role, what you can bring to the role. The third paragraph, highlight relevant experience and demonstrate how your skills match the specific requirements of the job description. And the final paragraph is really you just closing the letter down, concluding, just telling them when you're available and thanking them for their time. Some top tips to actually write a cover letter is, again, make sure you're not using one generic cover letter for all your roles. Tailor it specifically for the organisation and the role. Identify your unique selling points and clearly define how your skills and experience meet the role. Don't use a generic cover letter. Make sure, again, you proofread and check it for spelling and grammar issues, and make sure all the details on there are correct, like your contact details as well, so that they're able to contact you. Here are some resources that you can actually tap into on Career Edge, and some external resources on prospects as well, where you can find out a little bit more about how to write a CV, examples of CVs, examples of cover letters, and some just general advice as well for you. Don't forget, at Careers you can access lots of support. So we offer appointments, drop-in appointments, lots of support with CV writing, helping you to apply for job opportunities. You can get your CV and cover letter checked out as well before you send them off. Okay, hopefully you found that useful today, and best of luck with your applications.